Helmling here. I wanted to record a video to talk over our expectations for your discussion participation in English 1301. Now, with online classes, you'll often find that a lot of what would have been, in-person discussion and call and response in a traditional classroom gets moved into these kind of discussion forums. And that's certainly true for us here. With in-person 1301 classes, they're very interactive, lots of small group and whole class conversations about our model text and about our writing. So how we reproduce that in an online class is through these discussion forums. Now, these forums are not always a wildly popular feature of online classes, but it's important not to think of discussion participation as a check-the-box kind of activity. We want these to be real conversations, real discussions. So let's talk about the expectations a little bit more and work through an example together. Now, the first thing I want to stress to you is that with these online discussions, you should think of everything you say as academic writing. You want to be practicing your control of voice, diction, and especially your use of evidence in your posts. These are writing practices, but they are not essays. With discussion, we want to be succinct, we want to get to the point. So don't feel like you have to write huge paragraphs. You want to get your idea across clearly, but in a focused way. It's usually best to have one central idea per post so that it'll be easier for others to respond to you. And whenever possible, you want to use evidence from whatever text we are discussing, whether it's something we've read as a model text or whether it's something that we're workshopping. You still want to be drawing direct evidence. So let's look at an example of what this will look like. And first of all, how do we get to our discussions? So typically they'll be nested in some unit. And just for examples, we're going to go to week 1 in the course. And not the introduction discussion, because that's not for talking about text. But we'll go here to the what makes a text academic discussion. And the reason it's not opening is because my Wi-Fi was temporarily off. Sorry about that. There we go. All right. So now that we're in the discussion, we want to look at, okay, what's the best way to do this? Now, with BlackBoard courses, sometimes you'll have discussions set up in such a way by your professors that you have to post in the blind first. The professor will give you specific prompts to respond to, and you have to post in response to that before you can see what anyone else has said. Now, as you can see, this isn't one of those. There's no such requirement here. I'm not requiring you to post anything before you can see what others have put. It's just that this is a mock-up of the class, and so there is nothing in here yet. But when you do come to these discussions, I want you to read what has already been posted. Now, I'll always give you starting points, like I asked these questions up here. And these are usually, pretty broad questions that you can reply to. And by the way, I will also often post follow-up questions throughout the week. But if you come in here and you see that 10 people have already responded directly to my starter questions, then you want to be careful about repeating a lot of the same points that they have raised. Instead of just responding right away to what I've said, it's better to read through what's been said by others and reply to that. It often happens that I'll have students come into an ongoing discussion and because they want to, like I said, check the box for participating, they just want to check that off their list, they just drop a comment in without looking at what's already been discussed. And then what do you know? Right below their new comment, there's already a back and forth discussion going about exactly the idea they posted. So definitely read the room, the virtual room in this case, and see where the discussion is before you post. Now, like I said, this is an empty test class where I experiment with building items for BlackBoard. So I'm going to have to get the discussion started here. And sometimes that will be you. Think of it as an honor. Don't be shy. Feel free to get the ball rolling. If you come in to participate and you're the first one, just go ahead and like I said, get that ball rolling. Now, one thing that we can do to further our discussions is ask questions. So I'm going to start that way. I'm going to say something like, I don't understand what the author means. Boom. Okay, great post, right? Right? Yeah, hopefully you're like, no. So this isn't very specific, you know? It's like, what do you mean? When he means where. So like I said, we always want to be referencing the text directly. So I could improve this by saying, I don't understand what the author means on page 3. Well, I've gotten a little bit specific, but not much more. So this is why quoting is so important. I don't understand what the author means on page 3 when she says that her relationship, was, quote, less than harmonious. Now this is better. I have quoted the text, so my question is a lot clearer, and my my classmates can go and read and see exactly where I'm talking about. So this is better. It's much more specific, and it is, asking a clear question now. But I think we can get even stronger here. I think we can make this more academic. So let's see, how can we flesh this out? Is this meant to be an ironic way of describing, typo, her mother? Question mark. Okay, now this is much stronger. Now with the first version, it was a fruitful question. We had quoted, so our classmates would know what we were talking about. Other people could answer and share their thoughts, but this will get them started off better. It's got more meat to it, and yet it's not too long and it's not overwhelming. And again, we want to be succinct and direct with these. So this is a good question to post. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in there. Now, please keep in mind that anytime somebody asks a question, it should be for everybody to respond to. Anyone can come in and jump in on this. And that goes, by the way, for follow-up questions that I ask. And like I said, we'll typically do that during the course of the week. I'll drop some additional questions in to kind of try to stimulate your thinking in one direction or the other. And when I do that, even if I'm replying to one specific person, it's a question for anyone to weigh in on. It's not just for whoever I'm replying to, because again, our interest is in discussing the text and getting that ongoing back and forth discussion going. So anytime you see a question from anyone, but especially from me, a follow-up question, feel free to weigh in on that. Even if it's posted in reply to somebody else, you can still share your thoughts and move that discussion forward. So here we've got a pretty good question to get us started. Now, there are other types of questions that we can ask, especially when we have one interpretation ourselves, but we think there might be other ways of looking at it. But sometimes when I can encourage students to ask questions in discussion forums, students try to cook up trivia questions as if they're quizzing their classmates, and that's not what we're looking for. We don't want simple recall questions. We want to be striving for understanding. And in any text worth studying, there will be ambiguities, things that are open to interpretation that we can explore. And again, build that back and forth conversation. You hear me saying those words a lot, and I hope that's reinforcing that discussion in this class is not something you can do in one sitting once a week. You need to, as the syllabus specifies, log in and participate several times a week. So let's pretend that we've done that. We've logged in and found this question. Let's pretend I am not the same person and I'm seeing this and I want to respond. So I'm going to respond with the same guidelines. I want to be direct, I want to be clear, and I want to use evidence. So I'm going to reply to myself, but I'm pretending it's not me. And I'm going to say, yes, I think she's definitely being ironic. And it highlights. Sorry, guys. This happens a lot in Blackboard. I don't know if you guys get it, if it's my issue, but it slows down, and then I'm typing faster than I can read. So it highlights her complicated feelings about her mom. Later, she says, the lessons she taught me were more about bearing resentment than anything else. And look how slow it is. Did I get it right? Oh, good. Usually, now, see, this happens a lot. It finds a period in here. All right. Thanks a lot, Blackboard. Okay, and then I'm going to put a page number. We saw earlier that in my make-believe text we were on page 3, so now I'm going to assume that this example is on page 4. But look what I've done here. I've been very direct. I've got some answer. It's a good, clear answer to this question, and I've got some evidence. So that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and post that. So there's another reply. So let's pretend that I am yet another person. I'm a third student coming in, and again, let's pretend I'm neither of these people here. And I'm going to come in and find this thread, and I want to reply. Now, sometimes I find that students sometimes are at a little bit of a loss what to say in response, and they'll do something like this. So click reply here, and they'll say, yes, I agree. Okay, that's not the slowdown in Blackboard fault, that's mine. That's what the author meant. Okay, there we go. So, now I appreciate the positivity here, and it's good to, give your classmates some affirmation, but this is not really furthering the discussion. It's not taking us anywhere. At the very least, we might want to give some new evidence. And so I might find another example to back them up and say, you can see that also in the last paragraph when she says, I could never stand to hear those kind of remarks from my mom, period. It shows that even at the end, comma, she feels ambivalent toward her mother. Okay, so here at least I've amplified the other person's original statement. And that opens up, some room for other people to do the same, but might be possible to find a new way of looking at this example. So what if I added to this, however, she also feels conflicted about it because she says, but part of me knows that she did the best she could and that in the end it was all for me. Now we'll pretend that's on page 5, because again, I'm just making all this up, and I'm making lots of embarrassing typos, but thank goodness for Grammarly making them easy to fix. All right, those are just typos. Obviously, I know how to spell could. All right, so here now, what have I done? Yes, I've agreed. I've given my classmate that affirmation. I've provided some more evidence to back up his or her line of thinking, but I've also taken it a new direction. I found a new wrinkle in the way that the author is talking about this issue in her writing. And so this opens up a new line of thinking that others could respond to. So I'm going to post that, and now I've got a nice little nested thread going there, and other people can jump in different ways. And that's really what we want to see is, we want these discussions to capture our thinking and offer it up for others to consider. Now, in some ways, a discussion board may feel like a poor substitute for face-to-face conversations, but it does have some advantages. And the great thing about this is that everyone can be heard. Everyone has space to frame your thinking and put it out there in the world, which is really what academic writing is all about. So I hope that helps clarify the expectations for discussion in this class. But as always, if you have any questions, feel free to either ask in the forums or via Blackboard messages, and we'll see you in there.